because I matured more over there in New Mexico, with with friends and whatnot. I was sort of devastated and whatnot because I'm
Yeah.
forced to move back, and growing up without a mom and a dad, I kind of relied on other people for
Yeah.
uh, what's what I'm talking about for
That, that support, I guess you could say.
yeah, that support. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was, I'm not fortunate enough to have, both my parents, but I'm fortunate enough to have, at least people who care. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm always grateful for that.
That's I've kind of found that like my friend group, like my close friend group that I have right now, right? Like I feel like we're beginning to be like family, really, more
Hmm.
than just like, or it is a family in a sense, right? And not like doesn't always have to be blood by blood, kind of, stuff like that. And if you can find a group that you can of people that you accumulate over time, over the years, right?
Hmm.
Can stick by you and are really cool people, for you, right? It's not like cool in the general like popularity sense, but like, you know, um, then you got yourself a developing family right there, and that's amazing, right? That's the support we need.
Because
You know?
humans were pack animals. That's what we
Yeah,
used to be apes. And
yeah, or deviated from that same like lineage. Yeah, this world's so wild, dude.
it really is.
Sometimes it really sucks though. Fuck, man.
And people want to live on Mars.
Dude, that's like a crazy tangent, but I'm a science nerd, so like somehow I even know a lot about that stuff too. Uh, Technically we could, but my God, it's so dangerous to do that because it's not the fact of getting there that's the most difficult part.
It's
I mean,
living
it
there.
kind of is, but it's trying to cultivate it so that we can actually live there, to
Hmm.
begin to live there. And you would have to like cycle out people. You would have to take these massive precautions because the planet has no atmosphere whatsoever, and everything is super radioactive because of that. The soil will stick to your suit, so if you bring the suit inside the station, then you literally infected everyone else with like insane amounts of radiation. So it would have to be like an external suit that does. I was like watching this YouTube video on it, like their channel, Kurtzgraft or something. I forget the name.
It's like,
Uh,
was it like an animated like 10-minute video?
yep, it's those ones.
Yeah, the Cura's. It starts with a K, and I know that
Yeah, yeah,
much.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
those guys. I was watching like a lot of stuff, science stuff, and everything,
Hmm.
socioeconomic, right? All of it,
It's
right? I
it's
learned
really
from
interesting.
that too, because it's just super informative. They're really
Hmm.
cool.
Like
Um,
how ants is like the only other species on Earth that go to war with each other.
yeah, dude, that's insane.
I know.
There's there's like miniature scale wars everywhere, all around us. We don't even know. It's the only species that like does that. Like, what the hell?
I know. It's pretty insane. I think the first, since before I settled in Vegas for the second time, the
Yep.
first video I came across them was the lonely video. I don't know if you saw that one, but
Yep. Hmm.
it was about settling in and whatnot, and I sort of, I don't know, I still felt, I guess, lonely, and I met this person. She sort of helped me, because when I went to high school, I was going into high school alone, and
Yeah.
I had no one, I guess, physically to look up to and
Hmm.
whatnot. And since I was extremely attached to my other friends at uh, the other state,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to get attached again because of all the moving.
Yeah.
And
You don't want to feel it go through that again
mhm.
because
And
it sucks.
it does suck.
It's the worst.
And I met this girl. She was getting harassed by these bunch of dudes, and she I they would just be constantly like talking to her, and they mentioned, she mentioned, or someone mentioned about having a PlayStation, and she played, and
Uh-huh.
I kind of just butted my way in and said, "Yo, you have PlayStation?" And she's like, I was like, what games do you play? And she was like, Rainbow Six Siege, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what's your username? And everyone else started, coming and seeing what's your username and whatnot. And I played with her that same day, and later on we became friends. We ended up moving away from that little corner where she was getting harassed from, and she's reminding me that I'm still a kid in school, and I should enjoy my time while I'm in school, and have just form new bonds, because that's the thing I need most at that time.
Yeah. Dude, that's what it is. That's how you go about things. I think that's really important to do. That's cool to hear that.
Yeah, then the following year I did ROTC. I'm still in ROTC. I never really wanted to be an RTC kid in middle school, but I learned it's not that bad. I
Hmm.
developed my people skills back. I lost it due to COVID again, but uh,
Yeah. Yes. Jeez. I know that feeling, dude. Ugh.
I've always been shy, but I don't know. Recently, I've been struggling to look people in the eyes, but it is what it is. I know you have to expose yourself to looking them in the eyes more in order to get better at it.
Yeah, that's what I hear too. But I feel like do it at your own pace is the important thing. Or
Hmm.
like do it like forcing it is probably like the worst thing you can do, and that it has to come naturally. Otherwise, like it's just not going to work, and you're not really getting anywhere. I think sometimes it's just like slamming your head against a brick wall. You're not gonna break it down trying like that. You have to take it at another angle and approach things from a different point of view.
And then from RTC, I did wrestling, and wrestling. I feel like I needed wrestling. I feel like I needed to suffer physically, and I learned it was the hardest sport you can do in high school, aside from swimming. And I don't think I was ready for swimming at the time, so I just did wrestling. And yeah, I ended up breaking my leg during it,
Oof.
but it is what it is.
Uh, I can imagine how those sports would be so brutal. Like I know what's brutal about like contact sports too is or like so much can go wrong if either of you make a mistake. Things like that, like it could be bad. Or like swimming. My God, you're using every part of your body constantly, treading through water and all that stuff like that. Oh,
And
this is
if
a
you get,
weird tangent, but you know those slow mo guys
hmm
that do the video, right? They oh no, maybe it wasn't them. It was maybe it might have been a different like YouTuber. But there's like this thing where if a grenade were to go off in the pool or like near a pool and stuff like that, and you're in the water, you're screwed because the way the shockwave conducts itself in water keeps the same intensity and power throughout the water. It's just going from molecule to molecule, like a huge. That wave continues, right? Just like a real
hmm
wave in the water. And when it goes through your body, all the air pockets and stuff like that also are like rupturing and affected by it. It's just bad. You'd be safer to uh, run away from the grenade, like on the surface, and stay like jump 6 feet away and keep yourself like in a singular line with minimal exposure from the entity of the explosion. You'd be safer there than in water. It's kind of crazy, or something like that. Um, Sorry, weird tangent, but I was like, I felt like I had to share that with somebody. That's like that's kind of crazy to me.
I mean, not only are you sharing it with me, but you're sharing it with other people out there too.
That's right. There we go. Somebody in the who ends up watching this, hopefully they'll know the video and everything like that. I watch too much YouTube.
you
Like,
know, you learn from, and you learn from it too. So it's
yeah,
not.
I mean, sorry. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, like you learn a lot from it. You'd be surprised.
I
I mean,
feel like.
so
Oh, go for it.
I mean, there's some that are like purely just entertainment, and there isn't anything like deep or philosophical about it, or like stuff like that. But sometimes it's not
S-
the only thing you're learning from it, and I think that's the coolest part of it. Because like
mhm.
even with like comedy or like I watch all sorts of different type of like gaming channels and stuff like that, and even from like their own commentary, how they react to people and stuff like that. You can learn things from that too that you wouldn't really think about.
Yeah, I feel like uh, 'cause when I listen to podcasts, I like to draw because I'm not. I feel because when I usually just listen to podcasts, I sort of get sleepy. It just depends on
Mm-hmm.
how long it is and I guess what they're talking about. But when I draw, I like I'm doing something and I'm also paying attention. So and that was
Yeah,
sort of out of
you're like,
no. Oh, go for it.
oh no, it's okay. You go for it.
I sort of came out of nowhere, but I feel like I learn more from like podcasts than I do from I guess school, at least recently.
I think that makes a lot of sense, dude. Because like when it comes to like doing listening to like these podcasts, right?
Hmm.
You're taking that content, right, that's being said in there, right, and it's something you already are interested in or becoming interested in or caring about, right? Like whether it be the person, the topic itself, any of that, right? It could be anything, right?
Hmm.
Somehow you're watching this thing because you like it and stuff like that, and that's already so much more meaningful than anything you would do in school as far as to grab your attention. Then from there, the concept of that could be applied in so many different ways because it's just a person usually talking about stuff. And you're learning from that and other people that are involved in that podcast and so many more. And like how you said, like you draw, right, while you listen to
Hmm.
that podcast. And I think that's like similar to getting a lecture, right? And like writing down notes. You're taking that cognitive activity that's going in your brain from listening and enjoying that situation and like learning, right? And now you're applying it physically, learning and doing something and practicing some other skill, or maybe a skill that they're talking about on there. And the two don't always have to be related, and it can be varied by person, and that's something so dramatically crucial that I think people don't realize that like sometimes there are things that help you learn so much more than anything else could, right? Like school does not help us learn very well, right?
Hmm.
It's solely memorization of the things that they lecture us about, and you have to do homework and projects and things like that either in class or at home, which when you're at work, do you take leftover work all the time? No. At home to work on? No. Some jobs you work from home or you have to take stuff home, right? Because you couldn't finish it there, and that happens. But when it comes to school, it's like no, you're given assignments and stuff like that are specifically done to be done at home, and you have to work on that, right? In addition to already being at school for like 8 or more hours,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? Sometimes less if you're in college and don't have to take that many, or in high school and you completed enough credits in your last 2 semesters or whatever, right? But regardless, that time that you're spent doing all that stuff like that, for one thing, it could be a lot of knowledge that you don't need to learn, or that has no like it doesn't have enough takeaway from the things that you're going to be experiencing in your life. It doesn't have any relevance to where you want to be, want to go, and etc. Right? And it's
Hmm.
just this place we have to be and things we have to do because they tell us to, because that's what's expected, right? There's this metric standard, and it's this competitive thing where it's like, all right, you gotta reach these things because this is what matters. When it really is yielding in nothing substantial for us, right?
Hmm.
Like, what are we really getting out of that other than like being disciplined or learning discipline to get these things done on time, like, right? There's other ways and much better ways to learn and exercise that stuff, right?
Hmm.
Like, there's much better ways to learn and explain these things and stuff like that, and it's just not done well. I mean, hell, teachers, right? Let's say like you get a really good teacher, a teacher that knows the hell they're doing. One, they're not getting paid enough. Two, the schools don't support anything they can do. There's only so much they could do to help teach you in the first place. The content that they have to teach you may not even be something that's worth teaching or that's going to be like substantial, right? For
Hmm.
teaching children, right? The next generation that's going to continue on what we have. And it's just like it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's as simply as I can put it. It's just dumb how everything is formatted, and it should be the things that our governments, our presidents, our people in Congress and whatever should be focusing on. Things like that, right? Like not stupid things like uh, whether or not we should take away guns, right? Like when it comes to guns, right? This is like a hot topic thing. It's like, right,
Hmm.
guns themselves, like if you were to leave a gun on a table, that thing's not going to do anything, right? It's the people. Guess what? The reason we have so many crazy people, or people that resort to such violent and atrocious acts, right? Or anything under the sun, really, right? With or without a gun, regardless of anything, is because the rest of the system leading up in their childhood is fucked up. It doesn't work. It's terrible. It's causing people to drop out and quit because they have nothing. School's boring. It doesn't help them. It's not teaching them anything. It's, in fact, sometimes it's a cause of a lot of people's pain because what if they're already dealing with shit at home and all this crap at home, and then all of a sudden they go to school and try to hang out with buds or make friends and stuff like that, get away from that, and they experience even more of it or something else. You know, it's just like you're just not helping it. Then there's this competitive front, even when they're not dealing with kids and they're in the like safety or quote unquote safety of like a teacher being present, right? And there's not this, and they're like monitoring the situation and nothing's happening and stuff like that. Then there's this competitive pressure of like, oh, you got to have good grades, you got to do all this stuff, and it's like, oh, if you're not learning this by this point or done with this week or not understanding this, then I guess you're dumb or something like that. It's like, no, that's not the case. No, this is not right. It's not okay. Not how it needs to be. That's not how you do things, and it's not how you teach people. It's just messed up. It's just an evil system that causes so much pain. It hasn't changed in over 100 years. Isn't that already in and itself a big no-no sign? Aside from the fact that so many kids are being negatively affected by things like that in school, right? It's like, and it's like, do we really need to be focused on like bolstering up our military thing or focused on the other stuff when the fact that like the reason we have people who are struggling and causing problems is because from right from the get-go in their origin story, like a supervillain type thing, right? They were treated wrong and unfairly when they didn't need to be. It's just, it's crazy. It's madness. It's simple. It's a simple thing that we need to focus on. It's like we need to fix the way our children are experiencing the world. Let them be able to be better than what's there and give them the tools and opportunities to do so. Right? Not just leave it up to sheer luck where like, you know, me, I have the ability to be able to like think about this much stuff, right? And like really analyze and learn and decode and all this stuff, right? To understand this, right?
Hmm.
And try to strive for better, right?
Hmm.
But I also was fortunate enough to have both my parents not really that much going on to negatively impact me. So it's like not everyone gets that. Not everyone, even in that situation, under the circumstances, will have a parents that aren't putting like crazy amounts of pressure because there's this like notoriety that you have to achieve this thing. So even if you have like decent parents or whatever that aren't like crazy or anything like that, right? They
Hmm.
could still be not like quote unquote good parents as far as like how they're raising you, right? where it's like they're treating you like as a project and not as a person, which that happens, and that's dangerous. Um, and just like there's so much, there's just so much, it's insane, and all of it is just unnecessary things, or at least at levels that are beyond what we should be dealing with, right? Like to such extremities that it's beyond unacceptable. It's as simple as that. And we shouldn't be so focused on making amends for those past mistakes. What we should be doing is making sure that we take steps to avoid those from continuing to happen,
Mhm.
right? The same way with like racism, right? We should be taking steps to avoid that, not to like uh amend what happens right now, or I mean, how do I put it? What's a better way of putting it? Because that's not what I'm getting at. We need to already be taking the steps and treating the situation professionally and moving forward already, right? As if like, because racism should have never have been taking this long to fix or to have happen in the first place, right?
Mhm.
It's just something unacceptable and stupid and meaningless, and it is derived from the fact that like humanity needs to categorize things, and some people exploit how we categorize stuff to put themselves in power and put others below and all yada 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 because that's how they felt the need to do things, and there's this cascade of effects, and you can explain things and try to do and put all your time and effort to explaining that, but the gist of it and the whole point of it is that, look, we're at a point where we should already be over this. We should be treating it as if we're over this and not keep fueling it so much, right? Like,
Mhm.
we have enough problems as is, and if you want to deal with racism, right, in an appropriate way, Morgan Freeman put it in a good way. He's all like, doesn't matter if you're black or white. It's like, my name is Morgan Freeman. What's yours? Who are you? Things like that. We treat people like people,
Mhm.
not as some categorized thing or whatever thing like that, right? Not by a notion of success or how you look or anything like that. That's just dumb and doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't do anybody any good whatsoever. We just already need to be doing other things, treating other people like a person. It's simple. It's not rocket science. It doesn't take years of investigation or some philosopher or anybody else to tell you that. Like, it isn't. It just doesn't need to be that way. It never has. But we've let it become that way, right? Because for some people, it worked. And a lot of us in the past were immature and didn't know better or let it become that way because X, Y, and Z, right? But regardless of anything, we should already be we should already understand that and know that like we just gotta move forward. We just
Mhm.
have to keep moving forward. Keep dwelling so much in the past and bringing that back into the forefront and saying like, oh well, this and that. I was like, we can't fix that. We can't change that anymore. But what we can do is keep pushing past it to make things better, not keep adding to it. It's not helping us. Again, I think that's also why we haven't changed much, like the school system in over 100 years, because we get preoccupied with some stuff that like we don't like. What are we gonna do about it? We just you start treating people how you should want to be treated. Do you want to be treated lesser than human? No, then don't do it to other people. You're obviously doing it because you're insecure about something else. That's usually how it ends up starting.
Mhm.
So, just like they probably didn't have the support or stuff like that. But like again, going into that rabbit hole of like, oh well, this and that, and then trying to excuse stuff like that. It's like we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is is acknowledge that this was a problem and that we have to take the steps to do that by being a better person. You don't need to make other people a better person. You just need to start with yourself, making those changes within yourself. Because you can't always count on people to do that when they don't see that from yourselves, right? You have to be your own role model for other people too, to to change, to want to change, to do that, right? And you have to keep up with that, right? And it sucks if you're only alone and other people don't follow that. But you can't let that be like the signal to not to give up and stuff like that if other people aren't following, right?
Hmm.
Just F them, you know? Just forget about them. Find new people. Obviously, you can't, like, in school and stuff like that, which is why I would want it changed in the first place. But again, it's like, we can't let the circumstances of our situation, which is hard, I understand that. It's not easy. It doesn't happen in a day, right? But we have to try anyways to start redirecting it. So we don't get anywhere. Which is also why I still feel bummed out about stuff, because I know that's the crux of the thing. That's the hardest thing, is to be the person that's creating that support. It's hard to do that without the support, you know. But if you can, you know, that's the hope that that through these efforts that we can affect change. But you know, time will tell. Time will tell. I just have to keep trying. It just sucks.
You know, during high school, I've been thinking of what I wanted. Shut up, Alex. One thing I always wanted to. No, the things I keep thinking about after high school. You know, whether I should be. I should go to culinary school and be a chef, or um, police academy to become a police officer. Because that's stuff I wanted to do because I wanted to um, put my put some effort out there that that changes um, that changes
Like for
something about
more.
someone. Yeah,
Yeah, I like
because
that.
police officer, I wanted to I wanted to make the world safer, but at the same time, I want a family of my own, and sometimes police officers don't come back, and I guess that's what changed my mind about that.
Yeah.
And
I think another thing, sorry to impede, but like I heard that like it's hard for, like, say if you're like a genuinely good cop, right? It's
mhm,
hard to be the conceptual good cop because the system makes it hard to do so. Like the
mhm,
regulations and things that are put in place, how difference in rules and regulations per state and stuff like that. Like there's like the way things are written in law are also just, some of it's really dumb, if I'm being honest. Like, if you read some stuff, like, apparently in some states, it's illegal for a woman to have a beard. Like, what the fuck? Like, why is that important? Why does it have to be written? When it's like, what? You know? It's like, and obviously, like, you, as a cop, use your discretion for that. But again, back to, like, my whole point is, like, that's assuming, like, if this person even had the opportunity to, like, grow in the first place. Because I'd say, like, some people you don't even get to grow up in a way.
mhm.
Um, so, you know, as far as like that goes, um, I think it was a pretty good idea to step away from being a cop at least. Not to say like, oh, don't be a cop or anything like that, right? We need cops, but um, it is current, like especially now with everything going on,
Yeah.
right? Like everything is so unnecessarily dangerous and complex for no good reason, and it's hard for anybody to feel safe or enact acts to keep people safe uh, without something going horribly awry. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Um, but then I was thinking about joining like the army and whatnot during
Mm-hmm.
my wrestling, I guess you could say, career in
Mm-hmm.
high school. But I don't know. After breaking my ankle, and because the person who broke my ankle, he's like the type of person who has a massive ego, and when he did break it, he didn't even say sorry. He was just there and next to the coach saying, I don't know why he's on the floor. I don't know why he screamed, what the fuck and whatnot. But yeah.
He's not like willing to understand that like he caused you pain, and right now that's because of him, his own actions. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, and I can see where this is going with like military, like, because that could be potentially be the same kind of thing where like you kind of have
Hmm.
to follow these orders and rules and stuff like that, and that could be potentially harming somebody, and you just kind of had to, or get harmed yourself, and that's just kind of what's expected of stuff
Hmm.
like that, and that's kind
See,
of
in the
douche.
military, you're like, your brother in arms. You look after each other and whatnot. And the camaraderie in wrestling, suffering, like, with each other. That's I guess that's something I always wanted because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
become the military. And
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. That makes sense.
and because the coach was his dad, and then like there was another coach who just was always praising him.
Mm,
I feel like they sort of they praised, like, I broke my
they
ankle.
ousted you for that and just or ignored that because they wanted to support him
Mhm.
over you
Mhm.
because they knew him better kind of thing, and yeah.
He what should we call it? He and what do we call it? Crap.
They
So
give them like special treatment and stuff.
oh, yeah, and yeah, yeah. He had more experience than I did. He was older than me, and um, I'm like, I'm glad he didn't hold back, but it felt like, I don't know. I
He
feel like,
could have also, because he's experienced, right,
mhm,
that he should have understood that he was going too far and was breaking your ankle, you said it was, right?
mhm. We
So,
we both just fell on it, and it twisted, and it bent it in a way it shouldn't have bent it.
you,
And yeah, I just remember closing my eyes and just yelling. I'm a quiet kid, and I yelled, what the fuck, and
yeah,
everyone in the room stopped what they were doing and stared at me as if like I was in English.
yeah. Gosh, man.
I still came back because I, for some reason, I felt like I had to. I came back. I was in crutches. I supported the team even though I had a commission. And I
Because you
remember.
had faith in that commander. You wanted to contribute to that. You didn't want to just have that for yourself and not also contribute to that. So you had your sense of morals intact, right? It's your what's another way of putting it? You weren't there just to receive. You also wanted to, you know, participate in every which way that you felt was right. So that's why you came back, I think.
Mhm. And um, I remember it was like an hour before a tournament. The other team came in for weigh-ins, and the the other coach saw how small our team was, and he looked at me and said, is your team small because people couldn't handle it, or because of grades? And I said because people couldn't handle, the cardio that we do, because our school is known for uh, all the cardio we do. And he looked down at my leg and said, he, uh, so you still come even though you're crippled? I can't remember if he said crippled, and I don't know if crippled is the right word. I'm gonna go with crippled.
In a way, yes, because you could also determine crippled as not like a necessarily like permanent cripple, but that like you're crippled because you couldn't necessarily walk without the aid of the crutches and things like
Hmm.
that, and or without causing more pain on that. So yeah, technically that the use of that word was correct, but I understand because the connotation almost can kind of mean like the crippled where like a military guy lost his leg, he can't do anything like that,
Hmm.
or like came defected out right from birth, something like that. Um, so yeah, no, it wasn't meant like that, but like yes, yeah, that was used right. Most likely used crippled.
And he told me I was the strongest athlete there because I, despite being unable to, do what everyone else is doing, I still show up because I want to be there. And that inspired me to do. I mean, I couldn't run, but that inspired me to do pull-ups, leg lifts, stuff like that, because I didn't want to be left behind by my
Teammates.
teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I start walking again, and with my boot, and COVID comes, and I suddenly I can't participate anymore.
Yeah. It's like the
And
worst thing.
mhm. Time goes by, and I do football practice with Alex. It was both new to me and him. We both loved it, and we saw some. I saw some of my old wrestling teammates there, and
Yeah.
it was pretty fun catching up and whatnot. And that had to be canceled due to COVID again.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I started running by myself, and as soon as school starts, I got a message from one of my teammates saying, you know, wrestling practice is up again, but it's not really official, so you have to wake up early in the morning, around 5 a.m., and you have to go to this park, and that's what we do our, I guess, routines. I
Hmm.
show up there, and I guess the main team,
Yeah.
because the people that were serious about wrestling but weren't really serious about football, so they weren't there for football. Uh,
Hmm.
and the main coach, they saw me, they walk in because I want to be there,
Yeah.
and I didn't get a single like hello, or you're running again or something like that. And for some reason, I started having heart problems. I start
Yeah.
running like my fastest, I start going all out, and it's just my heart started like burning up. And yeah, I had to get that checked out. I had to stop going to wrestling practice again. Something got another obstacle in my path, and this happened fairly recently too. I got that checked out. I had my arse scanned, and the doctor thought I had COVID, and I had to test for that. For some reason, it wasn't your standard uh, testing for it, because I had to test for it for like 3 times. I had my nose swabbed 3 different times, and I had to take uh, a pill like every 12 hours or so, because it was like
What?
this little. Yeah, they wanted a test on me. Um, they asked for permission from my grandma, of course, and she said yes because it could help many others, and I get paid
Oh,
six
so they were
hundred.
like, you're essentially a guinea pig.
Yeah, that's what my friend said too. And I was gonna get paid 600. I did get six paid. I did get paid $690 at the end of it,
That's good.
and yeah. As of recently, I went to a cardiologist. It turns out that it's nothing too serious. I just had the stress get to me with.
Oh, okay. So at least it's not like something medical where you like will never be able to like get back into fighting shape, quote unquote. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. Dude,
And
that's. Oh, sorry.
you're good. And flashback to now, like how I'm feeling now. I I'm stuck in between. Uh, just giving. I guess I'll just say giving up. Giving up on wrestling and just starting something new, or going back to wrestling and I guess um, trying even harder. Cause I guess without a father figure, I just wanted recognition, and
Hmm.
I guess when I went to wrestling, I guess that's just what I wanted.
It simulated that like you're needed kind of feeling,
Mhm.
or that you wanted here, all that stuff. This sense of like, hey, like everyone proud of you. There you
Mhm.
go. Like pride. Um, this is what I'll say. I think if you think wrestling is fun, go back to it. For the time that you have, right?
Mhm.
Um, but also at the same time, don't be afraid to pursue where you can go from here, what you want to do next after it, right? Or if it starts to fall through again. So that way you have that something to fall back on that also feels satisfactory to you. So like something that feels meaningful to you, right? In some capacity, right?
Mhm.
And put your effort towards that. And I think that's the best advice I could give, considering like how everything ends up going, right? Like how uncertain things are, right? Like I can't. I never like to just assure people that everything's just going to be fine, because sometimes things get worse before they ever get better, and
Yep.
sometimes it's never just the end of it, and it feels like that, right? Sometimes it could even just be that like you're not putting, or you're not so it's not like you're not putting enough effort or aren't doing things smart enough, but that it could be that this just isn't the way you
Do you
need to
think
be
it's not meant
going
to
about
be?
something. Yeah, or
Cause
maybe.
oh, I'm saying it's not meant to be because I broke my leg, COVID happened,
Oh,
and
like a sign.
yeah, and then I suddenly have, heart problems when I do something physical like running.
I think the funny thing is, like, we could take it that way, right? Like, as a series of events as a sign not to do something, right? Um, and I think it's up to discretion, right? If it's something, if those series of events were coincidental, right,
Hmm.
and not, and definitely not something like caused by your actions or affected by your, or the event, the outcomes were affected by your actions, then it's something I think is okay to return to, and or feel okay that like, oh, this is a sign, right? And it's just, I think it's up to you, but you shouldn't always feel the need to take it like, oh, it's a sign, I shouldn't do this. The universe is telling me not to do this, because I don't really think it's good for people to believe in some kind of
Um.
destiny and or like fate or things set aside for you,
Hmm.
because that almost makes it seem like things will happen whether you do things or not, because it's fate, it's destiny, you know?
It kind of contradicts free will.
Yes, exactly. Because then what was the point of free will
Yeah.
in the first place? Why do we have it? And you can never. There's no way you would be able to create an answer to refute that, because it's too many plot holes to poke through. It's like, and there's no need for free will. There really isn't if there's destiny, because you can't fight against it.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh well, it's just some simulation or sick twisted game for some higher being. It's like, well, you could believe that, or you can continue to try to do something else or change the situation. Which would you rather? I personally would take the opportunity that we have free will. This is just a series of unfortunate events, and we have to make the most of what we're dealt with. And sometimes things just suck.
Hmm.
And whether that's because it was really just a coincidence, or the way the systems are made and the people that are involved aren't just doing what they should be doing. Sometimes that happens, and that's when it's not necessarily that like, oh, this thing wasn't for me. It's could have been just because the people or situations you were dealing at the time just made it so that that particular thing wasn't going to happen, because those people shouldn't have been the ones, or the thing shouldn't have been the way it was. And unfortunately, that's the way things are in this world, right? The important thing is like, if it's something you genuinely wanted to achieve or do, stuff like that, right? And it's not something bad or that's gonna harm people, then find a way somehow, right? Like, and if you can't, then find alternatives, right? Like, it'll suck, right? But I'm not gonna. I don't want to lie to people and be like, oh, it's just gonna. You'll find a way, right? And it's like, sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's what's sucky about things, right? But
Hmm.
it's not as if that was going to be the only thing. And it's not to say that like, oh, we'll give up on it. So maybe hopefully someday you can get back on the horse and do that again, right? Or have fun, right? With that thing, right? It's like my card game, right? For instance, um, COVID hit. We're getting a new season. Uh, Animation department stopped for it, so we didn't get the rest of the anime for this card game. Which the card game is Buddy Fight. Um, and
Yeah, I
then
remember that.
it has a really like kitty kind of name, but it's actually really cool and the art's amazing. And um, yeah, it's worth checking out because the cards are still there. Unfortunately, everything is pricey as hell because they stopped printing. The game is technically over. We got the last set a couple months or a month or two back. I bought the last set. It was like a thank you card in there too, all that stuff like that, because it was my favorite game. And just because they're not printing any more cards and not having official tournaments after this upcoming one or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean I can't still enjoy the game, right? Like my friends got into it with me, so they still have their cards. With this last set, a lot of our stuff was supported, so I just gave them the cards outright. Some of them I ended up was able to trade for them, but I knew that like one, the cards are expensive because the game is over and a lot of people still play it, and then two, it's like I still want them to play with and still have fun, so I'll give them the cards because one, I'm their friend, and two, it's just like a game we play together. So I want them to, be at their best and challenge me with everything they got. Just how I like things in card games. I don't want to just like fight someone at their weakest or make them at their weakest and then take them down. It's not all about victory. But like with COVID, with everything like that, it felt like God. It sucks because everything's just being taken away from me, and it's like the one thing I really, really, really like doing. And so it's not as bad as you though, where you have broken ankle, the people there are showing favoritism towards another person, then they don't even say hi and all this stuff to you while you like come back from the woodworks, showing support, and it's like, that just sucks. So
Yeah.
I can understand how that just, so that's why I'm like, best advice I can give you again is just, is it something, is wrestling something you particularly cherish a lot, or for wrestling itself, or is there another like sport or thing you can do that achieves an alternative goal, like how you're saying, like you kind of get something more out of it than the sport itself, you know? And if you can find that in something else, then maybe that might be worth more than trying to go back to that same team. Hell, maybe even try to find another wrestling team you can go into. And you start anew kind of there. Build new relationships, stuff like that. That's another way to do it.
Start from scratch.
Yeah, because it's not like all is always in vain, stuff like that.
A lot of sucky things has happened to me like throughout my entire life, but I don't want it to like define who I am. So when I
That's
get
good.
older, yeah. So what I think I'm gonna do, not now, but later, uh, I want to do the Air Force. I think the Air Force will help me have a little more life experience because I wanna explore the world, and I guess the Air Force is gonna do that to me for free. And I guess after that, um, I think I might be a therapist or a counselor. I just wanna talk to people, and I guess guide them into like the right path.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think you're already kind of doing that in a way with these podcasts too,
Yep.
because you're like figuratively talking to people through this, and or like to many more than just myself and the others that you have interviewed up to this point. Um, and I think in a way, like, how like recently a lot of people have been essentially setting their careers through Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, maybe eventually you can also do the same because it's not, because like with the military, right, you can like retire a little bit earlier than before. So
Mhm.
hopefully you make it through that stuff and everything goes well, or that at least you can persevere through it. Because dude, I'll be right behind you all the way through.
Appreciate that.
No problem. No problem. We gotta have each other's backs, man. 'Cause, I mean, sometimes you just don't have anyone else. So it's kind of how it, kind of have to be the one to do that for others.
Yeah, I tend to be that way too. I put myself out there for other people for the sake of others.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think that's like,
sometimes, I don't gain anything from it, but that wasn't the point in the first place.
mhm. I think you can also define that as heroic, right? Because I think a lot of heroism has kind of been just it's how we viewed it, like traditionally has kind of always been pushed to the grander stuff, right? And people forget like sometimes the all our heroes and stuff are so much more impactful
Hmm.
and important than we realize, or that we don't even really conceptually see, or like for ourselves, right? That we've actually experienced, and yeah, you could be surprised. Sometimes you probably actually met your own hero in a way in your life.
Sometimes, sometimes you know, you pull someone away from, uh, like a speeding car, and you're a hero. And other
Mm.
times, it takes is a talk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, dude.
I think I'm a little more set on the counselor though, and Air Force.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like this is it's probably been 3 hours. I don't think so. It's probably 3 parts, but
I don't know. I haven't been keeping track of time. I'm terrible with that. Uh, I definitely need to be better with my time management stuff. But yeah.
so have I. With my whole heart condition and whatnot, I've also been slacking and lacking on schoolwork. But
Yeah, it's hard to keep motivated on that stuff, and it's not. School's not helping itself out. I can tell you that. I just hope. I wish. Like, if I had to make one wish, right? Simplest wish, it would be like one, fix the school system, because that would already in change have so much more of a dramatic effect on all of us, and how the course of everything would change, right? Because we would know more, like actually know more and
mhm.
experience more, and become the people we want to become, or at least have the tools to do so. And then that too, that subsequently that the world will alter because of that.
you know, I'm at this point. I'm guaranteed to rewatch this stuff.
That'd be pretty
Uh,
awesome to rewatch this.
I'm a little.
Just cause.
Oh, go for it.
No, you go ahead. I was kind of going on a rant
Uh,
or tangent again. So.
I'm a little skeptic on whether or not I should add, because for my other podcast, I put like gameplay in the back, and it differentiates. It's like different stuff, like every like 10 minutes or so. But I'm a little
Mhm.
skeptic to do that here because um um I just want people focused on, I guess, what we were saying, because you brought up a lot of good stuff that's actually worth listening to, and I feel like putting something in the background would just be distracting. But then again,
Could be like
maybe
a series of like background images, like scenery stuff or whatever. So that way it's not doesn't take too much work in editing, but it's also something visually for people to see that's kind of like eye pleasing, without actually having to like get gameplay, things like that. It's potentially more distracting. How do you put it? Or
maybe I'll
like,
maybe I'll just walk around on Minecraft or something.
yeah. There you go. You can choose like a scenic game, or even just like um, scenery itself, like a replaying video of like a waterfall or something like that,
Yeah,
like a
I
high
can do that.
definition waterfall, something like that. Obviously, that's that's gonna be on your end. Um,
Yeah, I can't. I want an Elgato so I could record, I guess, other things outside of my PlayStation. But it is what it is. Maybe I just hop on Red Dead and just look at a waterfall.
yeah, there you go. Something like that. That would work under your criteria for that. I have way too much experience with projects and stuff like that on that scale, because I had to do EVIT, and I'd have to like present a lot of stuff for projects. And well, my two best friends at the time, they'd always have me present and like do stuff like that, and always try to take initiative on directing stuff. So it's like usually the idea man, I guess you could say. I know it. And going through that stuff and kind of like, well, I don't want to necessarily do it this way, and like adapting to each um, situation differently to that feels appropriate, you know.
Hmm.
I know how that kind of goes. So best of luck with that.
I'll be fine. I've gotten this far.
Yeah.
I thought for a second, I don't know why, but I thought I would be, because I'm usually the one carrying the podcast, but I think,
Welcome.
you were the first to carry me through the podcast. A lot of it,
Welcome to my world
a lo-
where all my friends are super passive-ish, kind of. Not always, but when I'm around, I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I dictate it, like the direction of stuff.
because
Just yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
a lot of it was, well, at least during the first hour, it was just me going, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the things I always cover, though. It's like, or how I was like talking about that stuff, right? It's kind of like that's the only really way I could think of someone answering that, though. Right? Like, because you can give the input, but it seems like we all agree on that, though. So there's like almost not much more to say, right? Kind of
Hmm.
thing. Because like it's like I said before, like when I was talking about stuff, like it's like things we all know, like or feel deep down inside. So it's not like there is any more dialogue to be happen other than how we feeling like our gripes with it or our personal like stories about that stuff, right? We can go
Hmm.
into that, right? And we did in a way, right? I explained like how many crazy stuff happened to you just more recently alone,
Hmm.
right? Not even over the course of your entirety of your life, right? Um, right. So like I think how everything fleshed out is kind of like I wouldn't say like the only way, but or the expected way, but what was going to happen, I guess you could say.
In the future, I definitely would want to do podcasts like sort of live. Live as in, like, the cameras are on us and, we're talking sort of like across from like a table or something, face to face.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Yeah, that's like the next evolution of this. I would like that. That would be very cool. Yeah, just let me know if you ever want to keep doing these, or even just like separate from the podcast, talk or do anything. Speaking of which, I think you've seen me play that free to play game Rogue Company.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Dude, I've been playing that so much because I've never played a game like it before. I mean, the closest was Rainbow Six,
yeah.
but I'm terrible at Rainbow Six.
Hmm.
But for some reason, I'm a lot better at Rogue Company, probably because it's just a little bit simpler. But oh yeah, dude, I'd be down to play some more games. Actually, are you free after this, or are you gonna be working on editing and stuff?
I don't really like editing podcasts when they're still fresh in my head, so I do it the day after.
Okay, cool. Oh,
Yeah, I'll be down to play.
alrighty. Or oh wait, have you ever tried Spellbreak?
No.
That's also like another free, but that one's like a battle royale, like magic and stuff. That's
Hmm.
pretty cool. Yeah. And then I have Apex Legends downloaded. I got Borderlands 3, Monster Hunter Iceborne, Destiny 2, Terraria, because I saw the 1.14 or no 1.4 update, but it's only on PC and mobile. Console didn't get it yet. And then I have Rocket League though. So those are the games I have downloaded right now if I want to play after this. So
Yeah, I'll play. Does this conclude?
yeah,